So folks, extreme situations call for extreme measures. I had no choice but to put myself in Doug's lair. Now he's away with his uncle Jay Leno. They're having lunch. I need to hurry, so we're going to get right to it. But let me cover some basics. So if you haven't seen already, Doug's first video, he went into the issues and the reasons why he thought Cybertruck would fail. As a result, I posted a video in response to that. Now, I didn't do my own review. I simply responded and put in points that I felt that Doug had missed. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to kind of somewhat go in order, but I want to let you know, as a result of the last Tesla video, I have 9 professional automotive designers that are working as we speak, creating designs of the Cybertruck that could be the result of the aftermarket. So for some of you people that think it's hideous and you hate it, maybe that outcome of that design competition will change your mind. And that's going to be out in about 2 weeks. So if you're not a subscriber, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and hit the notification. It'll let you know when it's up. And so again, I'm going to have to do another response video, as Doug decided to do another video on the Tesla Cybertruck. I saw it, and maybe just like you, I thought maybe this is the moment that Doug kind of brings in some points that he'd missed. To my surprise, and maybe to yours as well, he doubles down and basically repeats himself. Everything he said in the first video, he kind of just reiterates more powerfully in the second. So yeah, he hasn't changed a bit. In my first response video, I actually tried to point out things that I felt Doug missed. I didn't really debate his points. I just let them be. And my point of the video is for you, the buyer, consumer, enthusiast. I'm striving to correct what I see as being somewhat toxic in the YouTube world, is that car people that are essentially just car talkers, not necessarily builders or people in the industry or people that have ever really been involved in any substantive way in manufacturing or anything. They're like the Starbucks car enthusiasts. They're the guys that sit around and chat about cars, and they have an opinion, no doubt. Anybody that analyzes something on an ongoing basis is going to have insight. I think the difference between Doug and I is that I was a person who worked in the aftermarket. I had many shops. I modified cars, force induction systems, dyno tuning, and did engine management systems. And I then was a chief operating officer for a small automotive manufacturer. So, for me, as seeing it from the enthusiast and the fabricator and kind of service provider and repair aspect, and then seeing it from a manufacturing standpoint, I was very in tune and keyed with consumer psychology and the people that came to us for a certain product at any time, whether I was doing custom stuff or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of reasoning behind that I believe I have, that Doug Demuro or someone like Matt Farah, who on his podcast just today is ranting the same crap, the same Cybertruck. And I just feel like these people are emotionally overwhelmed, like they can't handle it. I don't even like Tesla particularly, but I can look at it from an unbiased perspective. So in this video this time, I'm going to debate some of Doug's points, because I just don't think his points are solid, and I think that you need to see another perspective from somebody who's been in the car industry for a very long time. Doug has been making YouTube videos a very long time. He has a lot of following. Just this year, I've decided, actually the latter part of this year, I've decided to make a move on YouTube, so I've been gaining a lot of subs. Thank you for that. So anyway, let's get to the points that I wanted to make, starting with Doug's first, where he goes on to basically get into the math, and he says you can't deny the math this, the math that, and he compares basically the price of a base truck. He's just done this repetitively, and quite frankly, I'm just going to tell you what I think he misses. He does identify that yes, there's a comparative towing, and if you look at this one now, and there's about a $10,000 difference. What he doesn't point out is that Teslas notoriously have less of a depreciation curve. They depreciate less. Over 5 years, the average Tesla depreciates approximately 30 to 32%. The Ford F-150, for example, is 42%. So while you're owning the vehicle, not only with the Cybertruck offering, may you be paying less in maintenance and cost to drive it, but you also be losing less of your money. So this is another factor of, maybe in the front end you pay a little more, but on the back end, I mean, where might you end up? I mean, it's quite possible that you end up even, if not ahead of the game. So the big push from beneath in the used car market is people who can't necessarily afford a new Tesla really want to afford a good used one. And so that demand, again, drives costs up. You're not going to have that with F-150 and 2500 Silverados and things. Only the diesel trucks and like the heavy trucks, they're the ones that tend to hold a lot more value. But that's not the market that Tesla's aiming at with this. So, you know, I don't think Doug's math argument and cost argument really holds water. If you look at GM, Ford, these companies, they have a lot of add-ons, and typically dealers, when they order in, you know, trucks for their lot, they're mid-grade trucks or above. They have very few base models. They don't want to sell base models to people. They love the add-ons. They love putting things even on the lot to give the dealer itself some leverage, so to negotiate against. So I mean, you know, I did a quick search for new F-150s, comparably equipped 4x4 quad cab, a little bit of interior, kind of a mid-grade model, and I mean, they were 50 grand. So, you know, if you're talking about a Tesla Cybertruck being 60, you know, Doug, I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, the numbers, look at Porsche. You worked for Porsche America, for God's sake. Why does a base model Porsche Carrera sell for so much more than a base model C7 Corvette? When the Corvette's faster, it handles better, it'll run circles around it with a Z51 package, but yes, it costs way less. Well, how does the Porsche sell? It's because people just want Porsche. That's why they like the dynamics of driving a Porsche. They're not necessarily horsepower seekers. A bunch of other things serve their needs, and so the Tesla truck is the same way. I don't understand why you don't get it. Point two is Doug talks a lot about towing, and look, I think it's easy for Tesla to just go ahead and concede that if you're a guy who tows a lot, if your main core reason for owning a truck or is even 25% of the time you're towing it, and especially if you're towing over 60 miles, I mean, clearly you're not going to get an F-150. First of all, you're probably a 2500 or 3500 buyer. But the fact is I mean, yes, these trucks are not going to serve you. But I think the F-150 is the average guy who has an F-150. I mean, maybe he tows a lawn trailer, throws lawnmowers in the back to go to the mother-in-law's house, pulls maybe a 21 foot cuddy cabin type of boat with a single axle trailer, maybe some jet skis, ATVs, light towing, nowhere near the threshold of what the 150 or 1500 chassis can do. This is the typical buyer of the 150, and I mean, Cybertruck covers that with ease. So, you know, again, the towing argument, I guess we go ahead and concede it. I just don't agree that that's the mass market that's looking for the Tesla Cybertruck. I think it's well within the needs of the average buyer. So Doug talks about then this praise and love that he has for the Model 3, and Matt Farah again did the same thing. I think this groupthink that I talked about in my first video is toxic. They all emotionally just hate the design, and so they are now, it does not matter if it doesn't matter what this truck does, people. It doesn't matter if it gets 500 miles, 800 miles, they don't like it. That's just it. Emotionally, they just are fragile when it comes to the design, and that's all there is to it. They're going to rant and rant and rant over it, and quite frankly, I could care less what it looks like. It's different. That's it. I don't care if you like it, hate it. It's different than a Ram. It's different than anything on the road, and you either take it or you leave it. So, you know, the Model 3, he praises it because of how affordable it is, and it's not only the cheapest, but it's also the best. So that's what Doug's saying is for something to sell, it has to be the cheapest and it has to be the best. Nothing in the car world really agrees with that. So we wouldn't have AMG, we wouldn't have BMW versus Chevrolet. I mean, clearly people will pay a premium for the things that they want. And autopilot and certain fitments that come in Teslas, people will pay more for. It grants them the 10 grand difference automatically, right from the start. The big thing with the Model 3 and the reason that price has come down is because Tesla has continually engineered and developed with the Model S and the Model X. And now you get into the Model 3, they were able to bring the cost down because a lot of the engineering was done. And this is going to be the case with the Cybertruck. Again, Tesla is leveraging engineering they've already done. They've already gotten a return on that investment. And so the costs are coming down for them to produce this truck, to design it, to get it out to market. In addition, they bring this steel from basically SpaceX, That's going to leverage their purchasing of materials and things like that. It all brings costs down. I believe that the Cybertruck is a profit move for Tesla. I don't want to get into the debate of how Tesla's funded, how I've expected Tesla to fail repeatedly. It has not. Yes, they could be late. Yes, there's all these negatives, but as it goes, if Elon Musk and Tesla deliver this truck on time, I believe it is a profitable product for Tesla. So from this point, for some reason, Doug Demuro goes back into the towing situation, and then he brings up G-Wagons and the lack of sales for these fringe, like off-road SUVs and all this stuff. Doug, what are you talking about? So Doug seems to go into this position that the Tesla Cybertruck has to be dirt cheap and has to tow the same and has to do all these things on the exact same level playing field as GM and Ford and Dodge, and frankly, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, he said he was looking for some revolution. He wanted something more because the market's so stagnant. Okay, Doug, get with me here for a second. You ready? 220 volt and 110 volt power on board is what they claim. Onboard air, okay, a dent resistant and rust resistant stainless body. We haven't seen stainless used in automotive manufacturing hardly ever. We look at the Ford, which has, because of federal mandates and because of fuel mileage, has gone to aluminum bed structures, which people have thrown toolboxes in and punctured holes in.
We got Sam, and we got Ben, and we got the 2017 F-150 STX, which I'm kind of disgusted with because look at the state of this bed, man. I didn't get a Line-X in it. Now I got dents happening from logs. I mean, the littlest thing dents and scratches this bed. It sucks.
Okay, so but you love Ford. Ford is progressing with the EcoBoost and aluminum bed that you can't barely do anything with without damaging. Now GM, granted, has gone into these forged carbon and different carbon technologies and have made, seemingly have got one up on Ford in terms of bed structure and things. But here you have the Cybertruck, which is, you know, this exoskeleton, as he claims, very stiff, torsionally stiff structure that is dent resistant. On top of the fact it's got autopilot, it's 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. Doug says, I was just hoping for something better. Like what, Doug? I mean, what's more groundbreaking than that? I have no idea. So Doug talks about people who have commented that the Model 3, the crowd that buys the Model 3, may then transition to the Cybertruck. He disagrees with it, so do I. I think that was either misunderstood on Doug's part or just a random comment that really doesn't make sense. But the fact is I think there may have been an implication that because there is a base model that's very affordable, it could have, it could drive many buyers who want something a little more utilitarian that would maybe ordinarily buy a Model 3 to look at the base model Cybertruck, which I think is possible. Also, I think that there are people who use pickup trucks just as family vehicles. It gives more room. That's the nature of America. These are the directions we've been going since the 50s. We had land yachts in this country. We have living room on wheels. Trucks have gotten bigger, and that kind of transitions to where Doug goes on this thing about the length and the width and the size versus a Suburban, and people are not going to want to drive something so large. I mean, unfortunately, this is the American market. I mean, we look to Europe and we look in other countries, Japan, vehicles are compact and small, but in America we have room, and so everybody seems to want bigger, 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 better, more power, more, everything. And so how you think the American market's going to frown upon this big, huge stainless steel spaceship, I mean, I don't know. I don't know where you're coming up with it. Of course people are going to buy it. And, you know, granted, some houses, the garages don't fit these things. People know this. Doug, it's not even a good point. So guys, let me summarize that I didn't do an initial review. I did a response video on my first to Doug, and this is a response video with a little bit of debate. My personal opinion, before, you know, some people left in the last comments, I was a fanboy of Tesla or something. You know, personally, again, I could care less whether Tesla fails or doesn't. I don't really have a huge love for their product. I appreciate how their product will influence the market in some ways, but I also think there's a negative side to that. I think that the push towards all this electrification has its limitations. I think that there are huge theories on how we will build the infrastructure for this. You know, lithium and digging for lithium and cobalt, I've heard some negatives. I don't really get into environmentalism. on that level, but there's a debate. Okay, that's the point. And so Tesla, for me, it's not something I really have on my radar, but I appreciate Elon Musk's determination and vision. I think Elon Musk knows consumers very well. He sold them a flamethrower that was basically like a Harbor Freight roof tar torch wrapped in like a Nerf gun housing for $500, and he laughed on Joe Rogan's podcast how he sold them all, 20,000 units, like nothing. And so, you know, he understands that there is a sector of the market that will just buy whatever he hands out. He talked about selling 50,000 hats for the Boring Company because they were limited edition, and he chuckles over it. He knows that there are just people that are going to buy whatever Tesla sells. And Doug, how don't you know this? I mean, it's easy. And so, I mean, really, the big question that maybe Doug should be asking, or the people who don't like it, is can Tesla ever build a pickup that can compete truly with the Silverado or with the F-150 to the scale of how many units they sell per year? That's a completely different conversation, and we don't have enough information to even answer that yet. I think as Tesla moves into the semi-truck realm, to where they really start getting into towing and hauling loads and developing more battery technology, maybe. It's just not a conversation to have right now. This is a toy. This is a Tonka truck. This is something for people to play with, modify, bring into their house. For the guy that wants to go fast but can't get a Corvette because his wife won't let him, but allows him to get a new truck every couple years, yes, this is going to come on this person's radar. To the kid that wants to go to school and be one of the cool kids, you know, he's 10, 12, 15 years old, this is a factor. I remember being at a Corvette bash some years back when the C7 first came out, and one of the designers asked the crowd, who do you think we designed the C7 Corvette for? Now, a bunch of the older guys in the crowd said, oh, the 40-somethings, you know, because you don't want us old boys to have. And he said, no, you know, that's what a lot of people think. He said, but when we really designed this car, we wanted to impact the 10 or 12-year-old boy and girl, because that's how you build a brand. That's how you build a whole new 20, 30 years of buyer demographic. You get into their heads as children, you implant the seed, and then they take it for life. So that's where we're at, folks. Thank you for watching the video. I believe I hear Doug pulling up right now, so I probably should get out of his garage, but thank you for watching, guys. Throw me a comment, and thanks for watching. I did my best. See you later.